One of the reasons I could never fully get my arms around the whole idea of just think differently is because that wasn't actually my lived experience. And I suspect for many people, it isn't theirs either. This showed up as a real truth of my lived experience when I went through those 4 or 5 years of compressed trauma, grief, loss, estrangement, betrayal, all the things. I wasn't able to just think differently, and if I could momentarily think differently, it didn't necessarily restore my ability to move in my life in ways that felt meaningful or purposeful. So don't get me wrong. I think that thoughts do matter. I think perspective matters. I think the mind matters. Thinking matters. I'm not anti-thinking. But cognition alone will not restore capacity when grief, when betrayal, trauma, estrangement, illness, overwhelm, when they're in the mix. You can understand something completely and still not be able to fully live inside of it, to fully apply or take action on your understanding or cognition of it. You can understand your childhood, understand your attachment style, understand trauma, understand nervous systems, understand why you react the way you do, and still find yourself unable to access steadiness, to access participation, choice, to access meaning, to access purpose. Realizing that understanding something was not the same thing as having the capacity to live different. That was one of the great heartbreaks of my own life, while simultaneously being one of the most pivotal realizations. I'd spent my whole lifetime thinking if I just understood things, that would somehow afford monumental changes to occur. But my lived experience revealed something that was really quite different. And I think many people know this. We're just so firmly wedded to the relationship of the mind with itself, the mind with the mind, just so firmly conditioned to the mind relating exclusively with itself. I think there's a lot of human beings walking around carrying tremendous insight, myself included, while simultaneously feeling exhausted, stuck, frozen, compulsive, overwhelmed, just unable to access their lives in ways that are important to them. We've overburdened the thinking mind. The mind was never meant to carry the entire burden of human regulation and aliveness all by itself. So let's get clear. The mind can analyze, organize, strategize, interpret, compare, remember, anticipate. It's really extraordinary. But my lived authority tells me the mind truly functions best when it's informed and nourished by the experiential orientation of conscious awareness. I don't believe the mind functions best when it becomes the primary place we attempt to live from, especially when the mind itself has become frightened or overactivated, grief-stricken, or caught inside endless self-reference. I laugh about self-reference because I relate to that so deeply. What often happens is that thought attempts to regulate thought. Fear attempts to regulate itself. Analysis attempts to mitigate uncertainty. And eventually, traffic is directing traffic. The mind desperately attempting to organize itself. And while that can produce temporary management, it often doesn't restore a deeper steadiness, a confidence in a place of stability. What started to change for me wasn't the elimination of thought. It was discovering an orientation quite different from thought. It's what I call conscious awareness. It's not an idea. It doesn't come from thinking. It's not spirituality either. It's an experiential context within which thought itself can finally be held. When conscious awareness becomes primary, thoughts are no longer the whole sky. There are moments happening within something larger. And when the mind is no longer carrying the backpack of all the supplies for this journey of human experience by itself, everything begins to soften, to loosen, to move differently. You're able to make decisions that are born of a wider foundation, a larger context, a deeper wellspring than anything that thought alone can manufacture. This doesn't occur through force, through domination, or through generous smatterings of what I call the woo-woo. The mind just finally finds itself being supported by something wider and steadier than itself. It's one of the reasons I talk so often about conscious awareness and the capacity that's inherently there, and then the choice points that come out of it all. Because the foundation of capacity doesn't emerge merely from more analysis and mind activity. Capacity emerges from finally discovering another different place to stand. It's very different than the thinking mind. Light years away, in fact, and completely right here. And that space is conscious awareness. Thanks for showing up today. I'll see you soon.